Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amor de Soi Wellness. And Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Happy Talks. My name is Dr. Alice, and this is Donovan. And today I have a very special guest. I'm very excited. Dr. Helene Pulnik. She is a naturopathic doctor and a weight loss and emotional eating expert. So please welcome Dr. Helene. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
Yes. Yes. So I'm curious, what's your story into becoming an integrative naturopathic doctor and specifically specializing in weight loss?
Well, I started my healthcare journey off as a pharmacist
Hmm.
for 20 years, and it really wasn't the way that I felt healthcare should be going. Instead of patients getting better, what they were getting was more and more prescriptions and more medications and more side effects.
Mm.
And the turning point came when my oldest daughter came down with a really bad bronchitis that turned into asthma that didn't go away.
Mm.
As a good mom and a pharmacist, I gave her all the medications, and she was getting worse and worse, not better. So I just decided on my own to, look into a better way of helping her heal. And I started looking into natural remedies, and I went back to school and I got a master's degree in human nutrition. And at that point, I got her better pretty much with nutrition.
Wow.
And I decided that was the pathway I wanted to follow. And I went to naturopathic medical school, and here I am.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That's a great story and a really inspiring one. And so I'd be curious, I'm sure a lot of people out there are wanting to lose weight. It's an issue a lot of people are struggling with it, but I think the harder part is keeping it off. So why do you think it's important to lose the weight and keep it off?
Well, pretty much in my clinical experience, pretty much anyone can lose weight on a well-designed, supervised program. Really, really, nice weight loss. And I've been helping people lose weight for over 20 years in my practice.
Mm.
The problem is, once we're done with the weight loss, there's different reasons why they put the weight back on. First of all, they have no clue what to eat or how to exercise that's going to
Mm.
be right for them.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is stress is a huge component to weight gain, and pretty much most of our diseases that we have, inflammatory diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, the main stress hormone, cortisol, is also known as the weight gain hormone.
Right.
And it's kind of like fighting against a tidal wave to try and lose weight while you're stressed out. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing with stress is that a lot of people have stress. They go to food for comfort
Mm.
eating. So a lot of my patients, it's we can get them on a great plan and exercise, but it's so hard for them to stick to it
Mm.
because of the food addictions and the stress eating that is, they have going on in their lives. And it's been especially more significant of a problem during COVID.
Mm.
Stuck at home, stressed out. So I've actually been asked by many of my patients I've been doing these things, sort of anyway. And been asked by some of my patients to put together a program that would be comprehensive so that we can figure out what to eat, how to exercise, and help them stick to their plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be curious, you mentioned a couple different factors, right? You mentioned there's this diet piece, this exercise piece, and this stress piece. What do you see most often people struggle with? Is it a combination of all of them? Is it, stress triggers kind of the bad diet, or how do you look at the kind of interaction between those three pieces?
Well, I would have to say, I don't think I've had too many patients who were not under stress. And in the past 12 months,
Mm-hmm.
I would say my patients are pretty much under crushing stress,
Mm.
which makes any of these underlying factors, just makes them much more accentuated.
Mm-hmm.
And we know there's a huge connection between stress and weight gain. We know that stress can make all kinds of issues worse, like heart disease and diabetes. Stress is very inflammatory, so people get achy, they get headaches, their stomach aches. So there's a huge connection, and helping people with their stress before we can, help them do anything else is what I found is helping people the most.
So it's more like, and I know this from personal experience, but something like if people are really stressed out and they don't get that under wraps, even if you kind of know what you should be eating or have a plan for eating, that emotional component is likely to overwhelm you a lot of times and lead you down a path other than the one you'd like to be on.
Exactly. Exactly. Because emotional eating has nothing to do with willpower.
Mm,
It's all in your brain, what's going on in your brain. And, people try so hard to control it and they just feel like failures.
mm.
And actually, we can actually help them with that and stop those food cravings.
Yeah, I think it's so important to address the mindset because, we fall into these negative thought patterns. If we fail, if we fall off the wagon, then you stress about it and then you eat more and it's just like this vicious cycle that
Yeah.
feeds into each other. Yeah.
So on the emotional eating part of things, how would you, or how do you think about, let's say that I come in, right? And I say, hey, you know what? I'm getting really stressed out. And then I have these emotional eating problems. Where's a good place for us to start? How do we start looking at this and thinking about it?
Mm, yeah.
So what I do is I do something called clinical EFT,
Mm,
which is it's EFT is short for emotional freedom techniques. And
mm,
the clinical EFT that I do is the protocol that is used in the medical and scientific studies. That there's a lot of evidence-based research behind EFT, how it works, and it really is effective.
mm,
So basically, a lot of people have their special go-to. I have, some people. I have one person, garlic bread. Another
mm,
person, it's this special cake,
mm,
chocolate, chips, you name it. So what we'll do is, find out what is your go-to when you come home and you're really stressed out and you just want something right away. And usually they're not even thinking about. They just go to the refrigerator. They always have that special thing there, and
mm,
that's it. Um, so what we do is we have you bring it with you when we do the EFT session, whatever it is, the chocolate, the chips. It's different for everyone. Cheese and crackers. So we have you sit in front of, your whatever special food, your dish of ice cream,
mhm,
and we start doing the EFT tapping. We
mhm,
talk about, the craving. It's a combination of exposure therapy because you're exposed to the ice cream, and then it's tapping on the acupressure points on pretty
mhm,
much on the head and the upper torso.
mm,
And at the end of the tapping session, we have them smell it, taste it, and it's like, I don't really want it. But usually it'll take more than one session to really, really get to the bottom of it because behind a lot of food cravings, there's some sort of emotional history there, that they go to these things for comfort food. Something in their
mm,
past may have, they're associating it with something that's, calming and comforting.
mhm.
So going way back there, and it can take a couple of sessions. And for some people, there's more than one uh, type of emotional eating going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually test them. So there's a test at the end.
Oh.
The smelling, the tasting,
Mhm,
to really see if we've eradicated
mhm,
that craving. And then I teach them how to do this on their own. So it's not like they have to call me or do a session with me. They
mhm.
have this tool in their pocket. They can take it out anytime they need it.
That's really interesting. That's not a strategy or tactic I've heard of before, where it's like, it sounds like you kind of go to the root of a specific relationship with a
Mm,
specific food
Yeah.
and try to work out another way to reduce stress. That's not this relationship of like, I eat this and it tastes good and that makes me feel good for a minute. So that's really like really interesting. Thank you for sharing.
yeah, I think when you it's so important to look at the emotions because that's often an underlying motivation for why people continue to eat what they eat. That they know it's junk, they know they're not supposed to, but when they're, stressed or just emotional or I kind of find that I know, I mean, I'm guilty of this, but my partner does this where it's like, if you had a rough day, he's like, oh, work was terrible. I got to treat myself. I got to reward myself because I went through a really hard day. So, what are your thoughts about people who are like using food as like a reward system to overcome like a tough day? Or, and then it's like also the reverse. It's like, I had a great day. I deserve something nice, a nice treat. So, it's like, it's on either end of it. So what are your thoughts about that?
So when you think about it, a lot of it is really, really subconscious. A lot of it, and think about maybe back to third grade.
Mhm.
When you did something good in class and you got a
Mhm.
reward for it, or when you got
Yeah.
home and maybe you weren't feeling good, and somebody at home gave you something nice. Maybe that chocolate chip cookie.
Mhm.
So it's something that usually goes way, way, way back, and
Mhm.
people have no clue. I don't know. I just love it. Um, so really going back to the roots and bringing that memory up
Mhm.
and tapping on it and extinguishing it. So it's not going to be part of that memory. You can think about it, but not have the emotional attachment to it. And that's how EFT works for all types of things, phobias, stress, trauma.
Mhm.
It's really a cool technique.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I haven't personally thought about it this way before, which is, the comfort foods. It sounds like a lot of it comes with the history and the emotional comfort from the history. It's
Mhm.
not just that the food tastes good necessarily, and it may not be, necessarily sweets or something for everyone. It's
Mhm.
just something that brings up these feelings of comfort and security. And I've spent a good amount of time, trying to like tune up my diet around things that are unhealthy. But I think I might actually spend some time after this to think about things that I go to for comfort.
Mhm.
And even if they're not necessarily unhealthy, there may be some relationships there that are worth digging into a little bit more.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting. You get into all kinds of things, and it can be about a 2-hour session. So typically, it takes maybe 3 to 6 sessions to really work through things.
Mhm.
We also know that EFT is really effective for PTSD for veterans. There's studies that show that EFT literally can lower your cortisol level about 30 to 40%. So you can take someone's blood before and after,
Mhm.
and just kind of lowering that. What's cortisol does is just kind of shuts off your frontal executive brain thinking, so you're not really thinking even about it, but you lower that cortisol and you're like, no, I really think that I know what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really great. What about for people when you were talking about people associating their like past memories, like maybe positive emotions that come up with it that are
Mhm.
tied to certain
Yeah.
foods. Like when you said that, like something that popped in my head from my childhood was like once in a while, maybe like once every month or two, my dad would make French toast on Sundays.
Mhm.
It's like a
Yeah.
special treat. So there's like this positive association with it. It doesn't mean I eat French toast all the time, although
Mhm.
I did the other day because it was at the market and I was like, but like I only probably do it maybe once every couple months or so myself right now. So I don't feel like I have to it's not out of control, like I have to give it up. But like the thought of giving up that emotional tie to something that was such a positive memory for me is like I have a resistance to. So I don't know what
Right.
would you do with someone who had that experience?
Well, that would be, if someone was eating French toast,
Yeah.
6, 8, 10 slices every day when they came home to make them feel better. It doesn't take, EFT doesn't erase the memories at all. It just remove that you know that association that I had a bad day and I'm going to eat this and I'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
The memory that your dad making that French toast is never. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't want to take those memories away.
Yeah.
We just
Don't
want to
erase
break
my
that
memory.
vicious cycle. Just
Yeah.
break the vicious cycle of
Mm-hmm.
understanding why. A lot of people, it's just so subconscious, they don't understand why they're doing it. And then the next day, we can give them the best plan and diet and exercise, and
Mm-hmm.
I failed. I couldn't do it. I ate that gallon of ice cream. I have
Yeah.
no willpower. I'm a failure. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like to me the difference there is kind of the relationship and how it's affecting you, right? It's not just this relationship of like, oh, French toast is something I enjoy because it brings these nice memories.
Yeah.
But if you're using that as your primary way to de-stress on
Mm-hmm.
an extremely regular basis, as opposed to every once in a while, hey, this is a nice thing,
Yeah.
brings back some nice memories. I enjoy this. It's not making me gain 10 pounds a week because I'm eating 100 pieces a day or whatever. That's what it sounds like to me is the distinction to parse out there.
Mm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, do you think it's possible, like if I were like a French toast addict eating it every day, do you think it's possible for me to do this technique, and or do I have to like cut it out for a cold turkey for a while? And then maybe at some point I can like enjoy it once in a while, like every couple months, or is that gonna like be a slippery slope and I fall off the wagon and eat 6 slices a day kind of a thing?
So going cold turkey does involve a lot of willpower, but you don't really need
Yeah.
that when with emotional freedom techniques,
Mm.
because it just kind of disconnects that whole needing it to feel better. It's still going to be there, and you can definitely still have it. Sunday morning I'm going to have French toast. That's
Mhm.
great.
Okay.
Like
Mhm.
I'm not going to eat a gallon of ice cream, but I'm going to go out with my
Yeah.
kid and we'll have a little ice cream cone. That's a whole different story.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Mm.
So I'd be curious how you think about kind of rebuilding this relationship, right? Because I would imagine that, let's say it's ice cream. I go in, I do emotional freedom technique once. That's probably, and in fact, I think you mentioned it takes a couple sessions usually. That's probably not going to get me all the way to where I need to be. So, how do you think about or frame kind of this relationship and this process of like getting from I eat this every single day because it makes me feel better to this better balance, assuming that I'm probably going to make some mistakes along the way. There's probably going to be a day where I'm like, okay, you know what, it's too much. I get this whole gallon. This is mine. Where do we go from here? How does that work?
So we teach you the technique, and even though I just ate that ice cream, I'm okay. That whole guilt thing is part of that vicious cycle where people they eat it, they feel guilty, then they feel like failures. And got to remove that from the equation, because we have a great plan for you. We found out what your genetic blueprint is
Mm.
for what you need to eat for the rest of your life and how to exercise based on your genetics. So if you're feeling guilty and like a failure, it's not going to help you to have this wonderful plan. So we want to help with all of the emotional issues too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me because then it sounds like you have an additional tool so that it's if I was coming in blind, I would go, I ate all this stuff. Wow, I really messed up. Or it sounds like after, even if that does happen, you go, okay, I have this tool. I have to remember when to use it. I can do it next time. That kind of thing, and the path to getting off of out of this cycle, as you were calling it, seems more clear. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm. Yeah. You were talking about like this genetic blueprint. Can you say a little more about that? Like, what does that look like, or how does that work?
So once we have people complete their weight loss program, they've lost their weight. The question is, for a lot of people, what do I eat now? What do I eat for the rest of my life so that I can maintain this weight loss? What kind of exercise should I do? So we have some great technology that's fairly new, that we can get somebody's genetics and figure out exactly what type of diet they're genetically wired to eat and be healthy, and what type of exercise they're genetically wired to do to stay healthy. Because believe it or not, one size fits all diets just doesn't work for anybody. Same thing with exercise. And I up until this time that I found this technology, it was really kind of, well, we have different options here, and let's see which one is going to work best for you. Now we can just figure it out right away, and it's a done deal because your genetics never change. So figuring out what kind of diet and getting a meal plan based on your genetics, so that you don't have to, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? We've got your meal plan as well. Taking all of that guesswork out of the equation makes it so much easier. And then now we have a tool to manage those stress cravings and emotional eating, to help people stay successful on their genetic menu plan and exercise. And people usually will tell me intuitively, yeah, I've been kind of trying to eat like this anyway because I feel better when I eat this. That tells you something.
So when you have people with kind of their plan and they've got some of these techniques, are there any other roadblocks that you see come up for people? What are other ways that kind of throw people back into that cycle or get them back into a place where don't want to be.
Right, right. Well, there's also, I want to take a look at the person's biochemistry, because there are metabolic, issues and nutritional deficiencies that can also play a role there. Looking at somebody's sleep, making sure you're getting a good night's sleep, making sure you don't have nutritional deficiencies, any kind of metabolic issues going on, we want to address those as well.
So I guess that goes back to kind of the whole naturopathic, like we need to touch on most of the pieces of being a person to make sure that everything is in balance and everything works out well.
We treat the whole person.
Great. Yeah. And I really love what you said about like, it's not a one size fits all type of approach to a diet because, we're all unique human beings. We all have different genetic makeup. So like having something that's specifically geared based on what these lab tests or results say is just sounds very encouraging, I think, for people who are just struggling, like trying like a bazillion different diets and being like, I don't know if any of this is really working in the long term, kind of a thing.
Right. And, when people come back to me in 6 or 9 months and say, I just can't keep this weight off. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Not everybody has, that issue. Some people are able to lose the weight and maintain it. But then there are, so many of us with stress and, unknown things that are going on that haven't been uncovered, that, they just need a little bit more work.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, going along with this kind of genetic blueprint and this set of foods or whatnot, what kind of differences could you expect? Like, let's say I got this done. Am I getting information like hey, you need to eat pineapple. Like you have to have pineapple in your diet because of who you are. Or is it more like, here's your balance of carbs and proteins or some other set of nutrients, or like, what does it kind of look like? What are the variables that we're looking at here?
So it kind of looks like there's several different types of ways of eating. There's vegetarian, there's vegan, there's paleo, there's the Mediterranean diet. The keto diet is not really kind of a traditional way of eating. So, low carb is more, I would say, a traditional way of eating. So, and genetically, we're all wired to be able to handle different foods in different ways. So figuring that out, instead of just eating the standard American diet, which us naturopathic doctors call the sad diet.
It is sad.
The sad diet.
Literally.
Yeah. And people say, well, this is supposed to be healthy, but it makes me feel terrible. I have headaches and stomach aches, and I gain 10 pounds. So it'll really, really, it gives the person sort of, some freedom as to kind of work in what they prefer to eat, but giving a lot more direction than just, lose weight and start exercising. That doesn't really do much for people.
Right. That makes sense. Well, Dr. Helene, thank you so much for being on our show. Donovan, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that covers most of the things that I was curious about. As long as that feels like you got out a holistic picture or the chance to kind of explain the things that you wanted to.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, was there anything you'd like to share with our audience or plug?
Well, Valentine's Day is coming, and my program is called Beyond Weight Loss. It's a 3-month transformational program that includes genetic testing, EFT for stress eating and food cravings, metabolic markers. And there's, definitely we individualize for each person. And I'm giving a discount to everybody between now and Valentine's Day, because really the best gift to give yourself or someone you love is the gift of health.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a great gift idea to, support you want your partner to live a long, healthy life, of course. So why not? Or you could do it together, perhaps. As a journey. That could be fun. Yeah. It's always better that way, I think, if your partner can support you in any type of transformational program like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you again for joining us. It's been an honor to have you, and I'm sure our viewers had plenty of things to think about. And all right.
It's so wonderful to speak with you guys today.
Yes, it's been wonderful. All right. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.